Hello, you're listening to the Neil Lamptey Show. My name is Joey, and I'm joined by Neil
Hello, Joey.
and by Dom.
Hello.
Two defeats that we're going to be nice and positive about, I expect. Neil, why don't you start us off with your moment of the week?
It's becoming the Gus Hamer show, isn't it? But I mean, man's heading ball in from 25 yards. What's he
What are you
playing
gonna
at?
do about that? Yeah.
But also, like, I've just got to. Is Ben Foster on a bet or something? The amount of shit goals that man concedes, he's letting keepers score past him, and now he's letting people head the ball in over his head from 25 yards. And I mean, I don't want him to come at me with a lawsuit, but something fishy going on there.
Well, as well is I think he's got connections your neck of the woods, hasn't he? Isn't he from Lem?
He's from Lemel Warwick, yeah. Maybe family are listening. Hello, family. But no, I'm only joking, Ben. I'm only joking.
Look at you backing down.
Put that bit in, really loud, okay?
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that goal when we get to it, I suppose. But yeah, it was very, very good. My most recent recollections of Ben Foster were being valiantly good as Watford went down. Is that not?
No, absolutely correct. He makes all the saves, but then just every now and again he lets goalkeepers score against him and stuff. It's just, I don't know. Maybe he's just really, really smart. He just knows, to be really good every now and again, and then occasionally just let in something when he really needs him to.
Maybe he's so hungry for headlines that he either makes brilliant saves or deliberately lets in 25-yard headers because he knows that that'll be on TV and on social media a lot more.
Oh, to be that in control of your ego, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Just do whatever you want.
Yeah. Dom, moment of the week.
Yeah, so what I'm going to talk about is something that's been a minor peeve throughout the season and sort of peaked during the Forest game, which is the editing of iFollow, which they just absolutely love spamming replays. And it's just so annoying because the commentary isn't aligned with the video. You can tell there's something happening like underneath the replays they're showing. And it's just so infuriating. But the best part of the Forest game was at one point they just started playing what could only really be described as a blooper reel. It was just a series of players falling over.
Yes. I just love the idea that they've just got a replay, this one button that says replay, and they press it and then there's no going back. You're like, oh, fuck, I pressed it again. You got to wait another 20 seconds for the replay to happen. And they're like, Dwayne, you've done it again, you dickhead. And he just keeps pressing replay all the time.
I'm trying to think whether I might have got this wrong, but I seem to think that I've seen the iFollowy people, and it's like and I should know better here, bearing in mind that I'd sort of roughly claimed to have an audio engineering background. I think effectively what they're doing is spooling it back. Do you know what I mean?
What does that mean?
Well, like they're physically
they've
winding a thing.
little,
Yeah. And then what's it? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't know whether, and I think we should probably be fair to them. Editing that live with one person while you stood outside is probably quite difficult, but it doesn't forgive all of its mischiefs, does it? I suppose.
Well, that blooper reel was art. I thought. It was genius to whack not that together in the middle of a game.
Then what am I going to go for? I'm going to go for the performance of Max Biamu over the last two games, and not necessarily as an overall moment, but I feel like it's going to dominate some of the conversation today, if not all of the conversation. And it's a thing that we had a long conversation with, and I don't know in what WhatsApp group it was, but I feel like it was ours, about kind of the value of having him on the pitch and the sort of overall output of him as an individual player. I thought both of those things were very, very dominant over the course of those two games. So why don't we get straight onto that? Dom, Neil, Forest.
Yeah, Forest. Ugh.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I probably have to start at the beginning, which first of all, we couldn't stick with the team after all the debate that we had in the previous week about what team we should go with to start the match. And we were talking, should we just continue with the same team? We had to lose 3 players. So we missed out Hyam, Shipley, and someone help me. Who else did we miss out on? Who? Sorry.
Yeah,
Dabo?
Dabo.
Dabo, yes, yep. So, immediately you're then trying to conjure up something which feels vaguely kind of consistent. So, I mean, losing Heim, especially, who's been absolutely immense this season, didn't feel great. Shipley and Dabo, McCallum's come in and looked really quite nice on that side, and Shipley kind of feels a little bit interchangeable with some of the other players around him. So, but as a three, immediately you're like, okay, we're not going to have the momentum from the previous game because it's just not the same team. And that kind of told. I thought the first half, we weren't ideal in our play. We didn't really create too much. Forest they look stronger than us. Kind of just generally as a team. I don't think they look particularly great themselves. And considering some of the players they have in their team, when you got Taylor, Knockout, and Christie, people with Prem experience, it didn't look like a major threat. But they started better than we did. We came into the game. After a little bit, I thought Hamer had a terrific game altogether, and he's actually had a really good couple of games, and he was good against Reading as well. But he was probably our biggest kind of attacking and creative threat in that first half. But we didn't really do so much, but Forest did, and they got a goal, through which something that's becoming too much of a theme for me. Just really chaotic defending. So, I mean, we talk about Dom Heim having a good season, and he is having a good season. But take that aside, I think as a defensive unit, there is a lot of chaos going on at the moment. And it's just whether it's just a lacking of shape or whatever it is. But for their goal, you've got one player just left totally free in the box when the ball bumbles to him after every single one of our players is just chasing the ball without any kind of sense of calm. And it's, I do call for, the idea of a player being sort of really genuine and forthright in their attempts to get the ball and really be furiously chasing the ball. But also, you can't all be doing that. I mean, it's professional football. I don't know, it seems a little bit obvious, but you can't all run towards the ball because you're not 10. And you've got to have some sort of shape. And, it was a real shitty goal to give away, to be honest. And it was just a little bit symbolic of a lot of our defensive play recently where a lot of the good stuff is actually coming from last-ditch defending because something has gone wrong beforehand, and it's not a really good pattern. But so it was a somewhat worrying first half because we've been so good against Reading, and then we came out and we just felt very samey as we had before. We kind of, Max was getting involved and he was putting his back in, but we weren't looking anywhere near as threatening as we were against Reading. Then came the second half, and just saying right now, we were and probably are better than Forest. I thought our second half performance that day was incredible. I just think we totally turned it around. We turned around our thrust. O'Hare suddenly believed in himself again. He suddenly realised that he did have the beating of his players. He was driving on and on. Biamu was just showing his strength, showing his kind of core abilities as a lead striker in the team. He was just making life really, really difficult for their players. And who scored our goal? It was O'Hare who got the goal, and it was McCallum coming in off the right hand side again, seemingly tricking them into thinking he wasn't left-footed, dropping a ball just right into O'Hare's path. And for somebody who's missed quite a lot of headers, I don't really know whether he knew what he was doing or if he had any sense of what he was doing. But he flicked it around the keeper really nicely, and it was nothing less than we deserved. We were great, and he got that that goal, and it just set us up really to really push on, and we had plenty of time to kind of then go on and win the match. I feel like I just want to kind of finish off the match there because we looked good. We were going for it, and we had opportunities. O'Hare had another chance where we kind of dropped to him in the box, and he dribbled past a couple of players, and their keeper made a decent save. And it just felt like, okay, we're going for this. We'll find a way to get that winner. And we brought on Da Costa with 2 minutes to go. Not that it has any relevance on anything, but then all madness came into our play again. And poor Max, who had a great game, I thought, just seemed absolutely knackered. Made a weary pass to them. Taylor then driving through on goal, and McFadden does what McFadden does, and just collided with the guy penalty. It shouldn't be a penalty. What we should deem as a foul or not, but looking at the refs and what their guidance is nowadays, they're going to give that. And you just, in my opinion, it's easier said than done, but just he'd already made a bad touch. He was essentially steamrolling out of play. If he hadn't had the touch he wanted, see him out. Just don't touch him. Let him shoot if you have to. I think smashing into him with a second to go is not a smart play for me. And yeah, they won the game. They scored the pen, and it was infuriating because we were better than them and we didn't win. Game over.
The thing that bugged me about the sort of response to that penalty is I saw a lot of people tweet me or the podcast account and say, "Oh, what's he meant to do then? Just let him run through and score." Well, if the alternative is to push him over and foul him and give a penalty away, well, it's not preordained that he was going to score. But it's probably more likely that he would score from the penalty spot than it would be for like you say, ball coming through at reasonable pace and he's got a. Do you know what I mean? It's a wide angle that he's at. He could have scored it, but I don't think you push a bloke over.
No, don't say right. We'll make it easier for you. You're straining on your left foot, on your wrong foot, and his touch. He just got it wrong. And I know he's running at full power, and it's far easier for to say, but just don't give away that penalty. It's not necessary. There are other options.
The other thing that I couldn't understand was, I mean, we shouldn't. Oh, well, I say we. I shouldn't be looking to the internet for a kind of any nuance whatsoever, should I? But I am consistently disappointed that the lack of grey anywhere, and the amount of people that were arguing the toss over whether it was Biamu's fault because of the pass or McFadzean's fault because of the foul, and couldn't see any middle distance in between the two. no,
Mistakes all over, guys. Yeah.
Biamu's pass is why it happened. Right? Okay. Well, okay, I get that, but if that had have been someone's threaded ball, would that have been McFadzean's fault? Well, yeah, it would have been. Okay. Likewise, would McFadzean have been in that position without the ball? No, I completely agree. But that equally, we're not like you can't. You could say anything in that case, couldn't you? You could be like, yeah, well, if we'd have hammered it out like 5 minutes beforehand, then we wouldn't have been in that position.
Yeah, it's a cause and effect thing, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's this absolute desperation on the part of football fans, especially on the internet, for there to be some sort of sole scapegoat victim for all of football's ills. And you kind of think, no, it's everything contributes, doesn't it? The idea that it was just Biamu's pass or just McFadzean that caused it, you just think, why has it got to be so absolute all the time? It was a very poorly judged pass at a crucial point in the game. But don't just push someone in the back because they're faster than you. I don't know how many more times we need to see you giving away them penalties to just say.
It's not like it's a given as well, is it? Like he's passed it to them, so suddenly on the halfway line, and that's it. It's a goal. Things have to happen after that, and also not to now pick on another player, but because Sheaf actually was. Oh, I need to mention Sheaf. Best game for us by far. I thought he really stepped up, but. Conversely, he just tamely give the ball away to a Reading player the game before, and they scored immediately from it. I mean, you can't just keep picking and choosing and deciding. Well, he had a good. I'm going to blame him for this, and it's the whole like you say, it's the black and white. There's only one person at fault always kind of thing, which isn't ideal.
There's also this kind of very wise, and I know we're probably in very, very dangerous ground here with a point like this, but there's this very, very wise thing of kind of, at that point in the game, you basically shouldn't play a backwards pass because you got to go. Well, no, what you mean is you shouldn't give it to the opposition. There's probably a million passes that are like that go on at that point in the game that we don't notice. It's this thing of, oh no, at that point in the game, you shouldn't be trying to pass it that far back. You're like, well. I don't know, shouldn't you? Is that...
If that's the right pass, yeah.
The problem is that it's so far away from any one of his teammates.
It's just a really, really shit pass. He made a massive mistake.
I make it a general rule in football, whether it's the 89th minute or the first minute. I say, pass to a teammate.
You maverick! I knew you were going to say that.
That's a classic observation of mine. Quite often I'll be sat in the pub and other people will be having these sort of Neanderthal level conversations about tactics, and I'll just blow their mind with a point like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I sort of thought, and I think it's triggered by all of the fury, isn't it? I just think that, and that's the bit that I understand, is that that's another point that is just completely pissed away for absolutely no reason. Dom,
Yeah, yeah.
what's your view on this kind of last minute?
I'm guessing that was for Dom. I think we cut out Dom's name there.
Oh,
Yeah.
go on, Dom. Your feelings about that last minute or so?
Yeah, it's just if it feels like it's sort of almost kind of a worrying sign of a trend this season. Well, not even for like we could describe it as trend, but it's like we gave it our absolute best in that second half, and we still come up with nothing.
Yeah.
Because through poor decision making, and those are the kinds of moments where you just start to feel yourself like, are we just not going to stay off? And so it's only 10, 11 games into the season, so we can still kind of make the argument that we're still adapting to this level, and we still got time to claw back. We're not in the bottom three, which is a massive positive at this stage based on how we've been playing and just sort of the general erraticness of our performances. But yeah, those are the sort of moments where you're sort of worried in the context of a season where we haven't been winning much. Whereas if that kind of stuff had been happening earlier, maybe you go, okay, well, maybe we get some form of correction for luck, or people start making better decisions, and it just feels like one of those things where the mistakes are starting to repeat themselves now, rather than it's just happening. And yeah, when they happen, it takes knock on confidence, and it becomes this whole cycle that we've got to snap out of quickly.
And we just don't seem to be being rewarded for. It's when we're not rewarded for the performances, and I think we've had a lot of good performances this season where we just deserve to win that match, and it is the stupidity which is then costing us the point. And I mean, Forest especially, I just thought that second half we were fucking brilliant. To shake whatever malaise it was in the first half, and we were all right, but it was nothing special. But to come out and just dominate them and just be a better football team than them, I know that's nothing special, but we just come up from League One and we looked good and we deserved to win that match, and we should have won that match with some more clinical finishing. And Max had a couple of chances. Ostergaard, when that guy's going to score, I don't know, because he's winning every header in the box and he's just not been able to put it away. And there were all the signs that we could win these gap matches, and then it's just pissing away the points for no good reason. And you sort of think, well, how do you fix that? Because aside from scoring 3 goals every game, because we're conceding 2 every match as well, so we're going to have to score 3 at this rate. And it's just like you're putting so much pressure on yourself in a really difficult league, when that really should be looking at just playing your game, playing how we are playing, and just being as solid as you can be. And the solidity is the biggest problem for me at the moment. We're just so sort of porous in defence. Mistake after mistake. It's a wonder we're not conceding more.
Given that the Watford game is going to be fairly heavy as well, can I just stop a second to sort of punctuate it with a bit of Leo Ostergaard chat, actually, because I've really enjoyed watching him over the course of this season, and his kind of, to quote from The Simpsons, never give up, never think things through attitude towards football. Because recently we've had him charging out to the right side of the pitch, whacking across like into the stand from the other side. That dribbled through the middle on the left hand side in one of the games of the last 2 games, and trying to shoot from range. The amount of really good quality headers from corners and set pieces and stuff that aren't going in, but then it's just the kind of brush yourself down and stoically run off. It doesn't matter how ambitious a thing he's tried or how unlucky he's been. It's just the same kind of stony-faced run back to the original position.
Oh well, off we go again.
It's not gone well again, but try next time.
That is very much the spirit, isn't it? You know, 'cause that's how he's going to keep getting these chances.
But you can see why the St. Pauli fans were like, "We love this guy." I love
Yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
he's everywhere a lot of the time, isn't he? The way that he pops up when we're attacking, you got to think, you, where have you come from? where are you, what? How have you ended up there? But then he's not out of position at all. I think he's really growing on me. I don't know whether he's good, but he's definitely worth he's valuable watching time. I know that.
Yeah, he's definitely number 2 madman as well, which I think we needed. Having lost Doyle, I needed the madman, and Hamer could well be that guy, but I think we just needed to double up on that. So we've now got 2 lunatics, which I really enjoy.
Yes, it's top class. Right, okay. Very, very, very strange game against Watford, Dom.
Yeah, and sort of but going to the first half of that game, it didn't feel like there was going to be a lot of goals in the game. It just felt the first half just felt a bit almost like sparring between the two teams, so sort of trying to figure each other out. I think Watford may have slightly deliberately set up to sit off us a little bit, just because they have just so many absolutely rapid forwards. And you saw that at one point in the first half where Andre Gray just completely stood up Ostergaard on the touchline and just charged on goals. Perhaps unlucky not to score. And there's just these occasional moments where Watford's attack is just flipped into life, and you're like, okay, that's why they've played so many years in the Premier League before. But as for ourselves, we did have a lot of possession, and we looked fairly composed with it. Like, in stark contrast to those games against Brentford and Bournemouth, where we just looked so frightened to do anything, and we were just making bad decisions. This one was, just far more competitive, far more composed, just far more ready to assert ourselves on the game. And as it got to half time 0-0, it felt like we were perfectly capable of winning the game. You're always kind of scared about what Watford's attackers were going to do, but in terms of sort of the flow of the game, we're on top, or at least a strong equal to it. And then we just go back to what we were talking about against Nottingham Forest, really, where it's sort of moments of panic, which led to that first goal where Sam McCallum's kind of caught out of position slightly, and then is outsped by Sema, who's just absolutely rapid winger, gets the ball in it, and as soon as McCallum was beaten, you could just feel the panic of the defence rising, and it was a bit of a stramash, people trying to get their bodies in the way, and it bounced and ricocheted around, and eventually there's Andre Gray there poking the ball in, and that was the moment. And then, after that, for the next 5 or 10 minutes, it just felt we were playing completely headlessly, where we just completely lost all composure on the ball, and we were starting to make bad decisions. There was one point where Saar ran through on goal, and Ostergaard had to completely take him out, and was perhaps a little bit lucky not to get a red there. Perhaps fortunate that Saar was running away from goal, but it's one of those where you kind of feel that could have been given as a red by another ref. And we just needed something to set ourselves back into the game. And that something proved to be a 25-yard looping header from Hamer, which we haven't really talked about before, like how much we think he meant it. It's one of those where you look back and you go, well, how can he have not have meant it? Like, what were the other options passing through his mind? You just watch it and he's clearly looking towards the goal, and for some reason the thought popped into his mind that I'm going to just bullet a header in that situation.
That's it. Yeah, I think I see it as he sees ball, he heads ball really hard as he can towards goal, and it's like he means something. I don't quite know what the specifics of what he means, but he definitely means to head that ball far, doesn't he? So it can only really be towards the goal. There's nothing else. But I think the way that he comes running, charging through, having taken the free kick, that's the best part. It's like, I've taken this free kick, and now I'm getting in there, and then you just see him bullet his way through towards that ball. It was insane.
Do you remember Frank Moose's goal of the season against Leyton Orient at Sixfields?
The little dink.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also that incredible screamer in the last minute against Preston, where it's from both of them. The one against Preston, they were like, "What happened?" He said, "Well, basically, I just was too tired to keep running anymore, so just hit it." And then the one against Preston, the one against Leyton Orient, is they were like, Was it a cross or a shot?" And he was like, "I'm really not sure." I thought it had got an element of that about it, where people are like,
Yeah,
"Oh, did he mean it or not?" And I'm like, "I don't think he knows. I think he's just, I think he
In
just
that
saw,
moment, you just don't know.
he just saw the
yeah,
ball and he thought, I'm going to do big heads on this." So
yeah. See what happens.
I don't think he's. I don't think he's. I don't think he was like, "Well, hang on a second. Foster's off his line there.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I strain my neck muscles harder than anyone ever has, I could probably lob this in." Likewise, he wasn't like, "Oh, just get it in the mixer." I think it's somewhere in between, isn't it?
It's just an impulsive kind of. He's
Yeah.
flying off the ball. He has to head it. You know, it's something's going on, but it's so impulsive. You just don't. He's not. He's not angled it in, has he? It's not like I'm definitely going to try and lob the keeper with my head here, because who does that? That's just
But I think
crazy.
I think that reaction speed and that kind of decision, that incredibly short, quick decision making, is what marks. I'm not saying that he's a fucking top level player, but there is a bit of that that sort of characterises the very top players, isn't there? And you think that actually, as he gets to it, he probably on some level sees that there is an opportunity for him to turn it into a shot, doesn't he? So whilst I don't think there's an incredibly premeditated thing from the moment that he runs towards the ball, do you know what I mean? But that clearly there is an element
Yeah.
where at the very last moment he probably thinks to himself, actually, there's something here. And I guess that's why I, amongst other things, will never be an elite level sports person, because even after it had gone in, I was like, I think he could get that.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments that we've had this season where you just wonder just how like many times better that would have been if fans were there. Just like trying to imagine how a crowd would compute that situation as an away team doing that. Just a moment of just complete like it's just a completely unique moment on the football pitch, and the way that the ball just loops in, there would have been that sort of second or two of pause before everyone was like, did that really go in? Did he mean that? What has happened? I know, wait,
I literally had that pause. Sorry to interrupt you, but I literally had, because I was watching on a poor internet connection. So that happened to me. So it paused as the ball was going over Ben Foster. I had to wait a good 10 seconds for the buffer to stop. And then it went in. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just like, it was insane.
Yeah,
That was my story.
And then I had that moment too, but then just having that eruption of just like elation from an away end, as realised that actually counted as a goal. It's always that thing. It's like, yeah. So yeah, and then we built on that, and again, another that would have been another sort of great away moment. Just been the reversal of momentum. Currently, we just seem to gain extra yards. Just looks so much more composed, and then the goal comes from Sheaf playing like a ball across the defence, which you only really do if you're feeling confident. Comes to Hamu, sort of chucks it forward, and then Biamri flicks on, and Walker's there making that run off the shoulder, and just a really composed finish, and just like a wonderful moment where that's what football can do, where there can be such a gulf between like two clubs financially. There can be so many recognisable names on one side and the others just like such underdogs. But as soon as you have that one mad thing happening, you can just completely change the flow of a game, cause those established names to doubt themselves, and the impossible becomes possible. And it was just, again, it just would have been such a incredible thing to have like seen played out live in front of a packed crowd. Was my major emotion from it, and it felt like perhaps that would have been a galvanizing moment of the season. It's sort of the moment we've been waiting for to prove that we can. We've got to. We just believe in ourselves and we can play our football. We don't have to be ultra defensive, to get the kind of results. We can be proactive, we can play with zip, and then almost straight from the kickoff, really. And Ben Sheaf finds himself under pressure for perhaps the first time in that game, having looked so good when he's had time on the ball to it's not just say passes, but they passes into the forwards that can just speed up the flow of attack, which really impressed me over the Nottingham Forest game and much of that game against Watford. But he was under pressure from two players. He plays kind of a poor pass, and that sets off Star in a one-on-one situation behind him. And again, it's just Watford's scary, quick attack, which gets them the corner, and then straight from the corner, a free, unchallenged header that completely wipes out our lead. And it's such a flattening moment to just not really even properly experience that moment of being ahead in this kind of game, which completely eradicates itself. And it kind of felt from that point that we would have to be holding on for the point. It wasn't exactly a Watford onslaught from that point onwards, but it's one of those where it just went a bit flat, and then we're starting to panic. And it's the inexperience of the team really not to be able to manage the situation, not to be able to slow the game down when they need to. It just felt like we were trying to play that game at a million miles an hour. And that's what led to that panicky period after conceding the first goal. And then that was kind of why we ended up throwing the lead away so quickly. We just weren't able to reset our heads quick enough to figure out the situation ahead of us and try and manage it in any way. And then you can kind of see that in the penalty incident as well. The ball comes into the box. They're appealing for some kind of push. It was like the concentration slipped there, and it led to Callum O'Hare just making such a stupid decision, really, to put his arms up in the air, trying to charge down a shot in his own penalty area. It's just a ridiculous moment, and it's just pure inexperience, really, and it gives them the chance to win the game. And again, we're just not making teams work for goals they score against us. We're just not that hard to score against at the back. We're just such a soft touch at times. It's just the slightest bit of pressure, and we're making bad decisions, and that's what's cost us probably 4, maybe 6 points over the past week. And you look at the league table now, we're slightly cut off from the rest of the division, and we're somewhat fortunate not to be in the bottom 3.
With the pen, what do you think happened there?
I just think it's pure panic. Where
do you think not think so? I got a sense of the fact. So I agree with you, but I would come at it from a slightly different angle. I think it was inexperience, but I think it's I think the reason his hand is so far in the air is I think he's utterly convinced that there's a foul in the build-up, and I think he like almost instinctively is like trying to catch the ball. Do you know what I mean? Like he thinks play should have stopped because it's such an unusual place for his hand to be. And the players were quite adamant around him that that was a foul. It looked to me like he was sort of anticipating that it would blow up so quickly that he was almost like grabbing the ball out of the air. But I just think you can't for a second just assume that. I mean, I might be putting 2 and 2 together there and making 5, sorry. But if it wasn't that, what the fuck was it?
Yeah, and it reminds me of when we played Sheffield United quite a few years ago when we were 2-0 up. It was actually Stephen Presley's last game in charge. And I think Sheffield United were down to 10 men, and he just managed to get the game back to 2-2. And I remember Michael Dull, who was playing for Sheffield United at the time, just came out in the press and said they got 2-0 up and they just got a bit giddy, and we sensed we could get back into it. And that was my feeling about the performance once we got ahead. There was just a giddiness to us. We were just, we just weren't taking care of the situation. We were still trying to push forward, and once we can see that goal, it just felt, we didn't really have any way of stopping the flow of the game against us, and that was the kind of situation where we've got Liam Kelly on the bench, which would have been perfect for it. And I suppose the only reason for Mark Robbins not having put him on in either that game or the one against Nottingham Forest was we still felt like we could go for the win. And I suppose against Watford, our lead was so fleeting. There wasn't really time for the manager to figure out that situation and try and calm the rest of the team down. But we've got to figure out that balance between the youthfulness of the team and experience. I think that dynamic between Sheaf and Kelly is the perfect example of that, of how difficult it is to strike that balance, because the first sort of 8-9 games that Sheaf has played, it's been hard for us to figure out just why he's been playing. He's making just a lot of silly mistakes, and you can see the talent at times, but it was just so many mistakes that didn't seem worth putting up with. And then against Forest, that was that kind of lightning bolt moment where you see, well, he just gives us so much more in possession, and that's why we've persevered with him. But it hasn't stopped him or the rest of the team as well being able to avoid the kind of mistakes you just wouldn't get if you had a little more experience and calmer heads on the pitch. And that is an area of the team we've got to figure out somehow to manage.
Neil, any final thoughts from you on Watford?
The only one would be to maybe give a little bit more praise to Hamer's got pass for the goal. I think maybe Paul, was it someone on Twitter? I think it was Paul, gave that a lot of credit, and I just want to agree with that. I just think the real purpose behind that ball through to Biamu shows kind of his quality, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna force this one through, and it was dropped perfectly for him. And I thought Biamu did great to get that out to Walker, and the goal all round was just class. And it's just such a shame that we weren't able to even try and calm ourselves. We just didn't even allow ourselves to react in a good way to that. We lost ourselves straight away, and it was another match where we could have won. And I think Dom's point there about sort of getting that balance right, it's a really difficult one because we are a little bit adrift now, and those 3 points can be valuable, but not we can't keep doing what we're doing, which it goes beyond just being a little bit sort of ambitious. It's just the complete opposite of that. We're just we've got like two sides to us. We've got this attacking threat when in this new formation with the two up front and that, which looks really kind of interesting and looks like we've got a lot about us. And then you've still got this really worrying softness to us in defence, where you just feel like, in spite of ourselves, we're just going to keep conceding goal after goal. And just also another great thing that Dom said, just not making the teams work for it. That's the other side of it as well. Just at least make it difficult. And then if they score a great goal or something, you can hold your hands up. But it's penalty after penalty or daft goal after daft goal. I mean, I can't really, aside from Lucas João's goal against us, I can't think of too many really good goals scored. We just, bit of a soft touch, and we need to somehow sort that out. Maybe Kelly is the person, even though Sheaf has come to the fore. It's going to be an interesting decision.
What would you do? Is it as simple as that, or?
It's very much not, and I'm having. It's really strange. A week later, having spent quite a lot of the last pod questioning Sheaf and questioning his position in the team, to then see what he's actually capable of in those two games, especially the Forest second half, where he stood out for me. It's like, okay, this is who you are. This is what we could have in the middle, and it's that. It comes back to that balance. It's what are we actually looking for? Are we Hamer and Sheaf, two relatively young players, a lot of enthusiasm, good players, but is it going to stop? The madness is going to help us get those points on the board at this moment, and I'm really torn. I think just because of the performances and the fact that we're scoring goals, we are looking threatening. The madman in me wants us to stick with it, thinking we can just go again and I think we're probably better than Birmingham. I just think we are. So maybe give it another chance with those players. But we're getting to the point now where we can't keep losing. We just can't keep. We need to somehow stem that flow. So one more chance for that team, and then maybe we'll have to bring Kelly back in.
What would you do, Dom?
Yeah, sort of. It's hard to figure out that balance. I wonder whether we're getting to a point where we need to consider maybe going with a back four just so you can get Kelly and Hammer and Sheep on the same side and just have that little bit more control in midfield, because it just feels like with the way McFadden has been playing and the struggles Rose has been having, that we're not getting that extra benefit of solidity from having that back three. But then again, you sort of question, do we have fullbacks or wingbacks in the side? And maybe that is just too big of a change to multiple players' positions to consider. But I think moreover, it's getting that mentality of being tougher to beat and maybe sacrificing a little of that ability on the ball, or always needing to go for it to just be harder to beat. And it's almost like that performance against Middlesbrough, which was dreadful, but it was pretty close to keeping a clean sheet. And you wonder whether we're going to reach a point soon, if we continue to see goals, whether the best approach is simply just to stink out the place a little bit for a few games in order to figure out how to be tighter at the back. But then again, in the Championship, it might just be the case that we don't have the ability to contain teams that have good forwards, and if we sit back, then we're never going to threaten them. And that's perhaps been the lesson of the past few games, where we have given some really soft goals away through individual areas, but maybe if you cut those out a little bit, we can keep that attacking shape that we had. And one thing we haven't really mentioned is that partnership between Biamu and Walker, which started in the Forest game quite promisingly, and then continued into Watford game. They just seem to have a really good understanding. And what they give, in contrast to having just Matt Godden up there, is those physical threats where Biamu, against Watford especially, was just so good at just getting his body in between defender and ball and just making it really difficult for them, even if he wasn't winning headers, to play it cleanly. Then you got Walker, who isn't exactly short, but he's very quick, and he's going to trouble teams running in behind. And it just gives us that extra presence, and I want to find a way of getting the most out of that. And then we got Godden in there buzzing around. He's going to put those two under pressure throughout the season.
Walker's 6 foot plus, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not. And it's really, really early doors, and you can't knock how well Godden has played this season. But I do look at Walker and think, my gut feeling says you're an upgrade on Godden. Neil, thoughts?
Just don't feel like I've seen enough just yet to know. I think Godden started well. I see him as very similar. I'm looking for like.
I do. I think that's
outstanding. Yeah. So what are the outstanding attributes they've got? I think they both finish. Probably they both finish in the same way. I mean, like say if Walker's got the height, that might give him the edge, but Godden's shown that he can kind of do a job for us, kind of holding it up. I think they're fighting each other, aren't they? I think they could go either way.
I think in terms of them being a similar player, I think the goal that Walker scored on Saturday was, when I saw it, I thought, when I watched it back, I thought the only other player in memory that I can think of that we've had that would have scored that goal in exactly the same way would have actually have been Godden. Do you know what I mean?
And he kind of did, didn't he? That goal against his hat-trick goal was a very similar one where it just dropped.
Kind of, just sort of rifled in from quite a distance, very confidently and very
pure finish. Yeah.
You sort of think if you were Godden, you'd think, oh fuck, I would have actually, I would have loved that chat. But I don't know. I just think he seems like a sort of like he's an iterative upgrade, I suppose, isn't he? Like, do you know what I mean? He's the 4S to the iPhone 4 that is Matt Godden. Perhaps.
It could well be.
It's
Yeah.
it's the worst observation possibly anyone's ever made about football. That I'm going to go out on a limb and say,
I don't know. You were talking about passing the ball to people earlier, so
yeah, yeah, true. It's not been a highlight, has it? Maybe we should move this on then. Right, okay. So we've got Birmingham on Friday, Dom. It's the tenants against the landlords.
Yes, it is, and
Yep.
yeah, just thinking back to that FA Cup game. We didn't get to talk about it, but obviously I live in Birmingham, so after that extra time FA Cup game, I had to get the bus back, and it was packed full of Birmingham fans. I just had one of them just go like, "I'm so happy," and it's like, just okay, earphones up all the way, just head down, just try and enjoy this experience. It was a harrowing experience. That game, just like I generally never celebrated a goal that much. Like usually when I celebrate a goal, it's always tinged with the thought that, okay, we scored a goal, but we could concede a goal. So this goal isn't the climax of the game. But in that game where it was just so low effort from Birmingham especially, it just felt so safe to celebrate, especially in extra time with about 4 minutes remaining.
Yeah.
And then the goal they scored, I watched it back, and it's a slightly wrongly hit cross. But being in the stadium for that goal, it was like it sort of drops up into the starry night sky, deflected off the moon, bounced down, looped agonisingly in slow motion over Marco Morosi. It was just generally one of the most agonising moments I've enjoyed at a football match, just the whole experience of it. But yeah, going on to what Birmingham are now, it could be a fairly similar kind of game where Birmingham aren't an especially attacking side, especially now they've got Ito Karanka in charge. Karanka has a record of, I think, about 40% clean sheets in his managerial career, which is incredible. And he's very much built on that this season, where they've got quite a few experienced players at the back, and they finally found an upgrading goal on Lee Camp, who interestingly has been linked with us over the weekend.
Yeah, I missed that. Where did you see that? Because I tried to look it up and I couldn't find anywhere saying it.
It's in the Sun apparently, and then like repeated across EFL Hub and whatever. So I don't know how much is in that, but it's interesting that we are looking to bring in the keeper, if we're going off on a tangent here. But yeah, now they've got Neil Etheridge in, who's former Walsall keeper. I remember when he played against us, he's quite a character. He likes standing off against the way end and giving a little bit of stick back, which I kind of appreciate in a goalkeeper, to be honest. Yeah, he's quite a strong character and a very good shot stopper, very commanding. He's played in the Premier League with Cardiff.
He was really good that season as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, and just a massive upgrade in that area, and it really helped them keep clean sheets. They've got George Friend, who Karanka took from Middlesbrough, along with Adam Clayton, just putting in a really experienced spine to the team. And one player that's really stood out for them since joining is a former Spain international, Mikel San Jose, who was at Liverpool as a youngster and has played a lot of games in La Liga with Athletic Club, and can play in either centre-back or defensive midfield. And it's just a really big present, just a big stopper figure, and a little bit of quality on the ball as well. So building from that platform, they've got their plan is to use the pace they have in wide areas to counter on teams. So they've got the aforementioned bad crosser, Jeremy Bella, who is a little inconsistent, but he's a threat because he's so quick and he can beat players. They've got Jonathan Lecco, who was a really big prospect at one time when he was at West Brom, picked up a few injuries and is rebuilding his career. Really, he had a decent loan spell at Charlton last season and has been picked up by Birmingham, a quick and skillful kind of winger, striker kind of guy. And I think the one who's really going to stand out in this game, as he has done for much of the season, is Ivan Sanchez, who is another really amazing dribbler, good ball carrier, got a good cross in him. He knows how to play as a wing or just behind the striker. And of those strike options, Lukas Djukovic has basically been their only striker for much of the season, with Scott Hogan out injured. And there isn't a ton of goals at the moment coming from their strikers, but with Djukovic, it just helps add to that solidity. And it's a strange one with Birmingham in general, where it seems their owners are trying to be quite ambitious, but have ended up repeatedly going for managers who have quite a negative mentality and haven't quite been able to invest in their squad to the extent as you need to get in the Premier League. But a lot of experience, a lot of physicality, and they're going to be a tough team to score against.
Beautiful. Is that us done, gents?
Feel like it?
Yeah.
Certainly seems that way, doesn't it? I don't feel like that was as angry as it could have been overall. I think to underline it, I think roughly speaking, there's enough positive in there to not be entirely downhearted. It's just annoying about the kind of the concentration lapses and mistakes
Exactly.
individually. Yeah. So we will
just ballsing it up when we don't need to.
We ride on. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah, it's good to be on as always.
Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you.
And we'll speak to you soon, listener. Bye.